very much, Holger. Okay, so I'm Lisa, and I'm going to talk for the next hour. I'm going to talk for an hour, and then questions after that, about what agents do. Can you hear me okay? Because the acoustics a bit, just about, have to speak slowly and clearly. Okay. So I'm going to divide my talk into what agents do, when I think is the right time to get an agent, and then how to get an agent. Just a quick bit of background about me. So I have been an agent for 25 years now. It's ages, isn't it? So my first job was a photo library called Image Bank, which is now part of Getty. So that was my very first job after university. I studied classics, so nothing to do with, studied Latin and ancient Greek, nothing to do with photography. I think it was easier in those days to get an interesting job, so I loved my job, and I always feel lucky that I'm a photographer's agent. And then my next job was representing photographers at a patch shop company, so just still like patch shop photographers. And then I think my first big break was when I got a job at a place called the Independent Photographers Group, which was a kind of mini Magnum, Magnum, the photojournalist agency. So I represented photojournalists and celebrity portrait photographers. Harry Borden, actually, who Holger just mentioned, I used to represent him. Zed Nelson, Tom Stoddart, Alistair Thane, lots of amazing photojournalists. So that was my first big break, and I kind of found my feet there, really. My job was to represent them to advertising agencies and design agencies, so they were more editorial, and I've always been in agencies where I'm the one being the representative to ad and design agencies. And then I started my own agency, LPA, 17 years ago now, with just a handful of photographers. Still use my contacts that I built up from the days of Image Bank when I was 21 in the design and advertising agencies. I suppose my agency is kind of known for maybe still lifestyle people, documentary photographers, because I used to represent photojournalists, and you'd be amazed in this industry how much things stick. So that's what people think of me sometimes. But I also represent we're racing ahead. All sorts of photographers, really, still life, food and drink photographers, portrait photographers and lifestyle photographers. This is the home page of my website, so I just want to show you examples of 3 of my photographers. The talk isn't sort of about me, it's about how to get an agent and the sort of photographers that are represented. So I thought it'd be useful if I show you 2 of their personal projects and then 1 commission, so you can kind of piece it all together to a certain extent. So Will Hartley, he's a photographer, one of the photographers I represent. I thought I'd start off with a sunny, sort of riotous pool party type shot to go with the weather. So Will, this is his project called Spring Break. I don't know whether anyone's heard of that. And so he's really cool. He's such a nice guy, but he's really not like pool party type of person. So it's quite funny to think of him at these crazy debauched pool parties. So obviously Spring Break is a thing that the Americans do, and go to hot climates and have drinking parties and flex their muscles, apparently. So these were some shots that he did in Cancun last year.
So these documentaries set up?
All documentary, yeah. Just he literally, as I say, he was just there somewhere. I was thinking, is he going to be okay? This looks crazy, but he's because he's such a quiet, unassuming kind of a photographer. So yeah, exactly. These are very much documentary. There was no sort of setting this up at all. And then another project he's done was just this really simple project. He went to stay with his friends in Bristol, and this is called Evie and Orla, and it's just a weekend staying with his friends. And I'm showing this, I guess, because I think sometimes these projects are the nicest, and they actually do lead to commissions, quite big commissions. So he didn't go to do a shoot, but he thought, I can't resist it really, because there's loads of moments. And he said by the end of it, though, the kids were loving it and kind of playing up, take more pictures, uncle, take more pictures. So it's just a sweet little shoot, lovely. Will's kind of, he gets quiet moments, and he's just a lovely documentary photography. And maybe one of the reasons I chose this one to show you, because he then got a commission, which is this, for Canon, so fabulous, so like a 5-day commission in Malaga, because they wanted it in tropical gardens and on the beach, and there were models and there was a stylist, and it's brilliant. It's a huge break really, because he was one of our Futures photographers, you know, a competition I run to find emerging talent, so this is one of his first commissions. So this is interesting because you can see why they commissioned him, you know, for Canon, because of his personal work. And the ads there were ads and they were shown all over the Canon website. So just a nice commission, good example of a photographer with an agent and how it works out. Food and drink photographer, anyone food and drink photographer here? Yeah, okay, this is for you then. So Tim Atkins shoots food and drink. This was a personal project on micro pollution, so you know how plastic isn't biodegradable and it just breaks up into small particles. So on the surface of it, it just looks like a beautiful lobster with a salad or whatever, but close up there's little bits of plastic in there. And this is a collaboration he did with a food stylist that he works with. So that's often the case that, you know, photographers collaborate with stylists and do personal projects together. So this was an interesting personal project of Tim's, one that got him quite a lot of publicity as well. He had like an exhibition, and it's obviously a very now subject as well, and very good, you know, important subject to talk about. So this is one of Tim's personal projects. Another one of his personal projects is gin and tonics. So I was waiting for the gin. So yeah, this is just like, let's just shoot some gin and tonics. It's all very now. It's all very, there's lots of brands that do gin. So yeah, let's kind of shoot what the brands want, kind of thing as well. With his food stylist, using lots of interesting ingredients like pink peppercorns and rosebuds and dehydrated grapefruit and cucumber and lots of things there. Am I going a bit too fast? No, it's all right, okay. So yeah, so another quite different from the other project, but it's important when you've got, well, not when you've got an agent, but as a commercial photographer, to just keep producing personal work. I think it's a really important thing to do, hugely important. And then this was a commission for Great British Chefs, which is like a platform of amazing chefs, so Marcus Waring and just like lots of famous chefs, and it's like a website you go on and it's just fantastic recipes. But this was a cookery book, so they got him to shoot their first cookbook, so it's 120 recipes, 2 by each of 60 chefs, so it's like a whole month's job. So, you know, cookbooks, maybe I shouldn't sell some video, but cookbooks don't pay so well, but it's like a wonderful commission, and it's great publicity, and, you know, just a great opportunity to produce lots and lots more images. So these are some images from the cookery book of the chefs preparing it, and also the dishes with no plastic in it this time. And this is the cookery book. So yeah, so they are basically, I thought, just 3 examples to throw in there of personal projects and commissions by commercial, so-called commercial photographers. Oh, I haven't finished. Nick David, so the third one. So this is a personal project he's done called Junior Bangers, and it's a group of like kids in Kings Lynn in Norfolk, and they're just fearless, and some are only like 11 years old, and they basically do banger racing. And so he just hung out with them and took some great portraits, and also he does moving image, so he did like a really great film of them, and interviewed them, and he works in collaboration with another filmmaker, Jack Flynn. So this is an interesting example of this collaboration. And also, I guess that moving image is sometimes, you know, a good thing to do these days as a commercial photographer. Not necessarily the be-all and end-all, but it's an extra string to add to your bow. So yeah, he's just got this great style. I mean, the main thing, hopefully, that's coming through here is that each photographer's got a very consistent, coherent style coming through. Again, like a really crucial thing, I think, when you want to be, you know, sort of really up there in the top kind of standard. That has to come through to be memorable. And then finally, his second personal project that I'm going to show you today is called Made of Steel. This girl's called Leah Steele, and she's from Hull, and she's the national junior boxing champion. So this is her with her family, and she trains at East Hull Boxing Club. So these are some of her little friends that she trains with, that all want to be boxers. And again, he did like a wonderful film following her, like what makes her so dedicated, and you know how hard she fights to, well, literally how hard she fights to be, you know, a top boxer. And so it's a great idea for a personal project, and I think, you know, his images are really, his feel is really coming through in the images here. Big, bold, in your face, kind of sensitive and empathetic, but just really lovely images and identifiable. So this was a commission for Hive Smart Home Products. So yeah, the client saw his general work and thought he's the right guy for the job. It needs to be bold and bright and uplifting. And so this was like a 4-day shoot for Hive through an ad agency. Nick David. Yeah. So this was. These shoots are great, you know, these are kind of, for an agency, it's great to do all the production, and it's a big household name, Hive, so this is a nice shoot. Typical of this kind of stuff that Nick gets, like he's done a shoot recently for Standard Life, a bank of images, so he shoots a lot of stuff like this, and hopefully you can kind of make the mental leap as to why he got this job kind of thing. And then Futures. Anybody heard of this competition I do called LPO Futures? Yeah? Oh, because I've got to talk and drink wine, isn't it? So this is a competition I've been doing every 2 years. Literally every 2 years for the last 12 years. So we get together a panel of judges, like well-known people in the industry, creative directors at ad agencies and design agencies, and art buyers. And I'm one of the judges, and then we usually have one of our main photographers. So Nick David was the photographer, and you'll see the picture of Leah Steele in there. And they win an agent, basically. They win an agent. 5 photographers are selected every 2 years out of the entries. Usually get about 150 entries, and they win an agent for 2 years, but they also win lots of other prizes. And we actually calculated, we thought, God, that's actually quite good. £20,000 worth of prizes amongst all of them, but they're all prizes to set them on their, set them on their way. So free studio hire in Holborn Studios, direct lighting, supplied free, vouchers towards lighting and equipment hire. It's free legal advice, free insurance. Kathy Roberts, who does printed portfolios, has given £250 towards each of their folios. Print, who do printing, they've given 50% discount. So lots of prizes to help them on their way. And yeah, they get an agent for a couple of years. And just briefly before I get on with the rest of the talk, these are the 5 winners that got into Futures this year. So we had the big launch party at Holborn Studios, and so Gavin Lee, he's just fabulous. So he's this shot on the left, I don't know whether you recognise it, one Portrait of Britain, yeah. So it's on the front of Hoxton mini press book. And he's got in again this year, and also Portrait of Humanity, so that's fab. Because there's no connection between the judges choosing the winners, and they don't know that they've already won awards. Maybe they recognise the shot, I don't know, but so he's just such a great character. Frankie Turner, so she's still life and food, so quite different. That's the thing with Futures, it's a complete gamble as to who we get. Like last 2 years, literally we were down to the final, which 5 is it going to be, because it's a live judging, and it was all 5 food and drink photographers, weirdly. So I was like, oh, how's that going to pan out? But I can't go, no, let's change our minds. But Frankie is food and drink, she's just food. And Josh Adam Jones, he's a lovely portrait documentary photographer. So he's another one of the 5 winners this year. This was on the left, a project called XO about Oman and about the expats that live in Oman and the relationship between people that live in Oman and the expats. People on the right aren't expats from in Oman. They are kids in Belfast. So he literally got a job at the Belfast Photo Festival and just spent the 2 weeks as well just taking pictures of people in Belfast. So he's got a lovely set of portraits in Belfast. He's interested in, he also does lots of projects of Northern Irish people in English towns like Birmingham and Cheltenham, and just like interested in that kind of thing, coming out of your hometown, I guess. And Andrea Zvadova, who's like a beauty photographer and a portrait photographer. So this is her 2 of her images from a story on albinos. So yeah, she's got a lovely style as well. So 5 very varied photographers. So it's all worked out really well because obviously I have no say in it, but we get them for 2 years and they're just all lovely. And finally, Andy Pillsbury, who has an interesting kind of Americana. So these are all shot in England. He follows like Elvis impersonators and also goes to Elvis conventions. So that's what the guy, he's got some great shots from that. And he does moving image as well. And he's done a brilliant story on Elvis impersonator whose whole life is being Elvis. And then on the right, this is a shoot in the Cotswolds. It's not in America. A guy called Brian, who's a horse whisperer. So yeah, they're just a lovely set of images, and that's why they got voted in. That's the five winners. The competition features you enter a portfolio of 20 images, so that's just how it works. So that's how they get chosen. So the next call for entries for that, if anyone's interested, is not till another, well, it'll be like in about a year and a half now, so time's gone. So that's my photographers. This is the rest of my agency. So we also represent stylists, LPA style, so all the divisions, they're all the divisions of the agency at the top. We also produce shoots. A lot of agents do shoot production, but not all of them, but we do a lot of shoot production. For photographers we represent, and also photographers that we don't represent. And we have a service called Pop-Up Agent, so that's if you get like a shoot inquiry and you haven't got an agent, you want someone to help you deal with it. It doesn't have to be a whole big huge shoot, it could just be, can you help me with some permits in the States, or can you look at this contract, it's a bit scary, can you give me, so we just provide a consultancy service for that, so like Pop-Up Agent. And I do portfolio reviews, so I do like sort of hourly, I just do them by the hour because I can only do so much, and like my kind of priority is the photographers I represent really, but I do kind of just hour ones now, but they're really good to meet photographers and, you know, kind of give an honest appraisal of what I think of your work. And I've written a couple of books. So the first one was called Setting Up a Successful Photography Business, and this is like just the basics of, right, what you want to be a photographer, what kind of photographer do you want to be, who do you think your clients are going to be, work that out first, and then how you're going to market yourself, how you're going to price your work, how, you know, just basics of organising a shoot, even a small shoot, legal obligations, insurance, all those kind of things. And I've interviewed, it's not just about advertising photography, it's I've interviewed, there's about 30 contributors in the book: wedding photographers, events photographers, fashion photographers, war photographers, pet photographers, just everybody. It's a great it's an interesting learning curve for me really, but it's just basically how to be a photographer and earn a living, and the parallels are all exactly the same. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is, it's all the same process of setting up a business really. And then there's another book, the purple one, which is a slightly more advanced version, which has like a business plan in it, and it expands on pricing in the different markets, photography contracts, terms and conditions, stuff like that. And I've just finished updating the first one, so I've got a new one coming out next year, setting up a successful photography business with a whole different group of contributors, So in the first book actually was people like Nadav Kanda, I interviewed, and Harry Borden, and some kind of like sort of names that you might know, but also just like wildlife photographers and still some films photographers. So yeah, look out for that coming out next year. Right, on to what you all want to know. What? So anybody here anybody here got an agent? No, hopefully not. This shouldn't be here. Anybody here want an agent? Okay, right, interesting. Why do you want an agent?
Because...
What's your name, sorry?
Tom.
Tom, hi Tom.
I shoot lots of portraits.
Okay.
I work for magazines, do editorials for some very nice magazines. There's still very nice magazines being produced on very thick paper.
Yeah.
That are bankrolled by big companies.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of branding work, and I'm pretty stacked at work. It's great, brilliant, I'm busy.
Yeah.
But I want to shoot a billboard for a movie.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to do what I'm doing for that much longer. I
Yeah.
need to stop. I start telling work, which is great to be in that position.
Okay.
But I need someone who can negotiate my fee. Like I photographed this one chap who's got 7 businesses. He's been on TV a lot. And then we did this shoot, and on my cost estimate I was specific that it could only be used for this business only anyway. He starts using it for various other things.
Right, yeah.
They're touch with it.
Yeah.
You know, he schedules in so I'm not paying that invoice.
Yeah.
Conference call you on Monday morning, so I'm like bricking it over the weekend. And ended up having a conference call with him.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, we had a conversation, he said, well, that's fine, we won't use the pictures then.
Right.
And I was like, I said, okay, well, if that's how you feel, then please take them down.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, no, well, they are good pictures.
Yeah.
And, he was saying stuff, well, we give you loads of work. He doesn't. Gives me one job a year.
Yeah,
But I could have done with someone to sort of broker that deal.
Yeah, that's good.
Not necessarily to get more money, but just to handle it and to make myself a bit more professional, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Take it a bit more seriously.
No, that's brilliant. That's music to my ears. I didn't think that was going to be like the answers that anybody would give, but that is exactly kind of the thing that agents do, so that's really good. I mean, just kind of in a nutshell, I suppose, I've been trying to explain to my mother what I do as a job for the last 25 years. She's got no idea. And I think she thinks I work in an advertising agency or something. And everybody that I tell that I'm an agent, they just can't get their heads around it. And then they introduce me when I think I've explained to them, like, oh, Lisa's a photographer. I'm not a photographer. They've just like missed the word agent off the end. So what I've started doing is, because I think some people I meet think that agents, and I hope I'm not going to come across as cynical and slightly bitter now, but a lot of people think that agents just get you more work. You get one because you're quiet, or you get one because you haven't got any work, but you take really great pictures. So you get an agent to get you more work. So that isn't the case. And I thought I've got to be careful tonight, not to just really go on and on about that particular point, but it is the case. We can get photographers work. We can do lots of great things like that, which I'll go on to talk about later. But they have to be of a certain level first and appreciate what agents do. So I've started using the analogy, it's kind of like being an actor's agent in a way, or an author's agent. Maybe we're an actor's agent, so everybody wants to have like Tom Hardy on their books, or Kate Blanchett or Helen Mirren. They kind of, maybe like younger kind of actors agents starting out are happy to have more unknown actors, maybe less established agents are happier to have less established photographers. But the photographers that are known, like myself and Horton Stevens and my peers like View and Train and Trailer and Jermaine Walker. There's probably a set of about 10, 15 of us that have been around for a while. So it's more about managing a photographer's career. You can open doors for them, and that's a great point, Tom. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we do. We negotiate jobs for the right fees, under the right circumstances. We negotiate the contracts in a kind of fair, flexible, you know, let's be kind of competitive way. We're not like, oh, I'm an agent who's only like gets out of bed for 10 grand. That just doesn't happen these days. But the majority of the job is dealing with shoot inquiries because the photographer's kind of known already, or they see them on our website and they think, yeah, he's worked for that client, so therefore we want to work with him. Then we can do the rest. We can deal with the jobs properly on a very professional level. I know so many photographers haven't quite got their terms and conditions pinned down. They don't quote the right usage fees. They might not have a clue how much to quote for a job. And like, why should they, quite frankly? We quote, 6 jobs a day, and it's kind of difficult for a photographer to have all that kind of information. So that sounded a bit waffly, but let me just go through there are 3 basic things that we do though. But I just wanted to initially make that point that we don't just get photographers work. I've done talks for younger people at unis, and at the end, sometimes there's always one that goes, great, yeah, where do I sign up then? And it's like, oh, I've just like not listened to a bloody word I've said. So it's like over the years it's become a bit, I've got to make this point, I've really got to make this point. But yeah, there are 3 things that we do if you want to kind of sum it up like that and put it in a bit of a box. So marketing and promotion, we certainly do a lot of that. I appreciate that it's difficult for photographers sometimes to edit their own work. They just want a second opinion. You're staring at your own images and they're brilliant, but it's kind of difficult to see the big picture. You might have had a great day when you shot your series of images, or you might say you love them, and then you've got brilliant images that was just a nightmare shoot, so you don't want to show them, but they could be brilliant. So you need a second opinion, I do think. I meet so many photographers that had a commission, but it's just really cheesy and awful, but they just think it's great because it's a commission. It's like, don't put that in your book. So I think editing images for promotion is a big thing of what we do. We go to ad and design agencies and present the portfolios. We have we're a known quantity. I've known some art buyers for years that I've been doing it, and they know the name, so they're familiar. So it's easy for us to go, can we come in with all the portfolios? But we like to present them as lovely printed books. It's a wonderful way to show work. Again, I get people asking, really, can't you just do it on an iPad? Well, yeah, I guess so. You could do it on a little tiny screen, like glowing, or you could just show beautiful print. It's like it's logical, isn't it? So we go out of the books and we promote photographers. Lots of stuff these days is by social media. Obviously a great little tweet on the left there to announce the show and the talk. In a way that's marketing for my photographers because it's like their agent or whatever. You rarely kind of put something on Instagram or tweet and then get an ad agency call up and go, hey, I've got a great job for you, or email, obviously. But I think it's important just to keep the profile up, create the buzz. So that's another thing we do quite a lot of these days. We send out newsletters, e-newsletters, e-cards, whatever you'd like to call them, every month. And we also do more targeted ones. We kind of do a more scattergun approach where we send it to thousands of people and we get jobs like that, or we send it to, we're very careful definitely to keep in contact with previous clients and put me off because it just took a picture, and make a kind of more targeted list and make people feel special that, I noticed that your company do packaging for Budweiser, so you should see Tim's work, or so we target things as well. We might do, just started representing a still life photographer who does more luxury leather and perfumes and things, so we're targeting that side of the market. But yeah, that's another way to promote photographers. And this is a printed promo we did recently. We do probably one every year or two. This, again, I've people have said to me, oh really, there's no point, is there? Just send emails, who wants paper, blah, blah, blah. But a small recycled paper, within reason, a small print run, people really, really appreciate that. And I've certainly noticed photographers because they sent me a lovely promo in the post, so it's a good thing to do. Meanwhile, photographers with agents should carry on doing all of this as well, definitely. So yeah, marketing and promotion. The second area I would say is estimates and bidding for jobs. So exactly, that's a big area. I mean, we do so much of that. Like literally, well maybe I was kind of exposed to a bit more. I've stupidly or kindly let 2 of my team go to Glastonbury this weekend. So it was like, damn, but I've got a talk on Sunday, I've got to prepare. So it's like, shit, this is what you do as an agent, isn't it? It was like, I know. So it's like so many estimates and you know, and presenting treatments for jobs, and this is an example of an agent doing an estimate. And so we might get a brief like this. So I'm just going to show you one example of a brief. This is from First Bus in Leeds. I must admit, I haven't chosen the most glamorous shoot to show you. It's like, but never mind. It's like billboards, and it's like press advertising, and it's a lovely shoot. This is literally like 9 pages of the brief altogether, and I've kind of done it on purpose because I probably shouldn't, out of confidentiality, show the client's brief, so I'll move quickly on. But basically, First Bus, the ad agency in Leeds Home, came to us and said we want to do an ad campaign for people that use the bus for First Bus. And we want real, authentic moments. It needs to be believable. We want you to do the casting, find the locations. We don't want modelly models. We want people that could use the bus, but they're not. So they're not over aspirational, but they're not poor. You know, it's all got to be the right image. Diversity as well was a big thing. So we thought, great, that's a lovely, lovely job. And when you estimate for a job, generally there's another 3 or maybe 5 photographers estimating for the job as well. So that's really what an agent really, you know, comes into their own, I think, to kind of do that.
The photographers would be estimating through your agency, or there will be competing agencies?
No, so there will be competing agencies or competing photographers on their own, but the client, the ad agency.
Forward more than one photographer?
Not necessarily. It varies really. So the ad agency will come to us and say, actually they did come to us in this situation and say, who can you recommend? So we obviously said Pritchard and 2 other of our photographers. However, it's not a simple answer. However, they may well have come to us and said, we want to use we're interested in Patrick, can you do a quote? And they might have had, and then they'd also get 3 or 4 other quotes from other agencies, or just other individual photographers, so that kind of varies really. So we were like, right, let's get on this, we want this job, this is so Patrick, you do a great job. So more and more these days when you're bidding, that's quite an American term, pitching for a job, you put a whole treatment together. So put a selection of images together that are someone on a bus, and they wanted a pensioner on a bus, so you know, little kind of signs like that, like kids, they wanted kids on the bus. And the rest of the treatment would be a little bit of biography on Patrick, what clients he's worked for, why he's perfect for the job, how he would approach it, the fact he is used to work with models but making them look like, you know, like real people and you wouldn't tell the difference, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, agents spend a lot of time.
When you're putting a pitch like this together, is the photographer involved in that process?
They are, yeah.
To what extent?
It varies, again, it does vary. Like some of them like, right, leave it to me, and then I'll kind of like at the end get, oh no, you don't want to put that in, or maybe put that in, and like, oh yeah, fantastic. And a lot of them are like, just crack on, you know, my work kind of thing, just like, yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It depends, they could be on a shoot and couldn't do it, or some of them just like, just totally trust you, rather you do it. Some of them are like, I'm doing it kind of thing, yeah, so it really varies. That's another joy of being an agent. Exactly. An estimate. I was thinking this is going to be so boring just to show, well, I'm not showing figures, I've crossed them out. But this is an estimate for this shoot. So just as an example, it's like first page, second page, and third page with terms and conditions on the back. So it's a lot of things that needs to go into the shoot. And I'm showing you a big shoot example, but like a small shoot, you know, you really have to not miss anything out, and you have to quote for everything, and you have to get things right. Like on the front of this quote, you'll see the client is home, so that's the ad agency. So in the terms and conditions on the back, it's got client is the person, basically they're the ones that are going to pay us. That's the contract that we've got with the client. The advertiser is the general overall advertiser, and the product service is these images are just for this product service. So it just seems like small print and words, but for example, a huge telecoms company commissioned one of my photographers a few years ago, and the product service was just like a small umbrella company, just like the English part of it, and we organised models and everything. So I was careful, as I always am, to the point of paranoia, to get all the details right. And then they came back like a couple of years later and said, oh, we can use it for like everything, can't we? Like all the telecoms companies, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, no, you can't. So yes, we can. We definitely can. That's what we're going to use it for. That's what we've paid for. I'm like, oh my God, if I've made a mistake, that is literally, I am liable for tens of thousands of pounds for the models, because we've organised models. Maybe the photographer might have forgiven me if I'd made a mistake, but you're liable for the models. Is a big thing. But luckily it was in there. Yeah. So now you can only use it for that little bit of the company. So phew. So a lot of what we do is just to really check you've got it all in there. The shoot fees, the usage fees, it's difficult to, there's not obviously a rate card. You get an instinctive feel when you're an agent. You've been doing lots of quotes over the years. It's not just what media, what territory, what time. It's like, which is the three basic things you're meant to quote on that the AOP kind of say. It's like who the audience is, what is the shoot, has it got production, is it just a fabulous shoot that you just want to do, is it, ask them what the budget is, they often tell you actually. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do, quotes. We charge for travel fees, recce fees. So many photographers I've met through the pop-up agent service they're like, should I charge for travel to like spend 2 days going to Scotland and back? Of course you should, because and I really should do a recce, but I don't really want to ask them. Like, well, yeah, you just ask them and they'll probably say, yes, we'll pay you to do that. Digital capture, equipment and lighting. Photographers go, I've got my own equipment, I don't need to charge for it, but it's a business overhead, so it's a lot of that kind of stuff that agents go, yeah, do it, we'll do it for you, don't worry. Yeah. And then lots of legal obligations on shoots that, like if you have a child model on a shoot, you need to get a children's performance licence. You can't just get a kid on a shoot. The local council could come along and stop the whole shoot and you get a fine. And you need a first aider on a shoot if you've got kids, which is somewhere there. So there's all these like tricky little thorny issues in shoots, like real potential hazard areas that you really need to be on top of. And as agents, we kind of are. So I could do like a whole talk on just like estimates, so I should move on. Shoot production. So this shoot is, yeah, so we go to meetings. This is a meeting about a shoot. And so the production on this shoot, again, lots of words, but this is like a 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, like a 4-week. It took 4 weeks to organise. It's a 3-day shoot in Leeds for the bus company, which I'll show you the images in a second. You have to do things in the right order. Even if you can't like read it all, it's just a matter, I wanted to make the point that it's kind of, it takes 4 weeks to do it and you have to do things in the right order. So you have to get everything signed off, you have to get the brief signed off. I've had some clients in the past where they've signed it off, kind of, and then I've gone, can we just completely change it? It was like, it's going to create 5 more days work, so you need to pay for it. So stuff like that happens. Expenses in advance. Again, lots of photographers on their own, I think they don't like to ask for money in advance for a shoot. It could just be a studio, but it could be £1,000. And they have to wait 3 months to get paid. Yeah, just if it's anything above basic photography expenses, then ask for expenses in advance because you're liable for that money. You might not get paid and that might really mess up. So there's a certain stages of a shoot process that agents know to go through, and as I say, it might just be a board director at an office and a one-day shoot, but you still need to go through the stages of shoot production and get things signed off. And these are the location scouting pictures of the bus depot, and we organise the casting. So these are just some of the things that go on in the shoot process that agents can help with. And we organise the crew. Because we organise a lot of shoots, one of the main things on a shoot is to just get a nice, friendly, relaxed team on the shoot, people that are used to working with each other. That's like, so many art directors have said, yeah, the photographer's just brilliant, but the day was great, you know, the crew were fab, they're so professional, they all loved working with each other. It's so crucial just having a good crew on any shoot you do. And then we do a call sheet, so like all the people that are on the shoot, so they all get this before the shoot, they know where they've got to be, and they've got each other's mobile numbers, where they've got to be, the maps. This is Patrick Harrison doing these, he was a photographer, wearing high-vis, because it's kind of on a road. So again, I just really didn't pick the most glamorous shoot to show you, but it's kind of an example of a good example of the kind of shoots that we do at LPA. And these are the final images. So yeah, so they're lovely. I think he did a great job. It looks like, it doesn't look staged, does it? It does look like real people that might use the bus with the diversity. And it looks like Patrick's work. So when they commissioned him, they wanted the end images to look like his work, and I think you agree it does. And these were the final images. So moving on to when is the right time to get an agent. So actually, I have some notes. This is the only thing I have to read out, but I have some like key facts and I didn't want to forget them. So the first one, because I can remember it, is, and you probably know this already, but it's just a few stats. So agents make their money from taking 25% of the fees, of like photographers' fees. Did you know that? Did you guys kind of know that's how it worked? Yeah. And the recce fees and the travel fees and the casting fees and everything else.
So you have a day rate, say you said you spent 4 weeks at a shoot,
so with when we do like a big production, we also charge like a production fee per day, like £350 or £400 or something as well. Yeah. If there's no production, if there's no like models to organise and locations and big shoots to organise, we just like take the percentage from the fees. Yeah. And then if it's a big production, we'll charge a day rate for production time. Yeah. So in effect, agents are free. So you might get signed by an agent. You don't have to pay to have an agent. I don't know if I should say this in video, but I won't mention any names. There is an agent that charged photographers a few £1,000s to sign up and to go on their website. Like, I do not think that's not the way I do it, and that's not the normal way to do it. You shouldn't really have to pay. However, it's a good deal. Say you might get just like a couple of jobs a year, but the nature of the advertising business is they could be £1,500 a day, they could be £5,000 a day. So you might say you have £40,000 worth of work that you've worked on while you've had your agent, whether that agent has attracted that business or whether they've attracted that business and you've dealt with that shoot inquiry. That's like, so the agent gets £10,000 out of that, apart from production kind of stuff. So say you do brilliantly well and earn £100,000 just in fees, you pay someone to oversee that £25,000. It's like a bargain. It's like a little stat. There are only 60 agents, I would say, in the country, I reckon. It's kind of a guess. It's not really a guess. I think that's about right. There's definitely two groups of us, though. There's definitely like the fashion lot, like Camilla Lowther and Terry Manduka and maybe Weber Represents and One Represents. And you'll see on their websites that they're more fashion. So they deal with editorial clients, but they also deal with fashion and beauty and luxury brands. And then there's like my lot, the Horton Stevens and the View and can't remember any other agents' names at the moment. There's flipping loads of them. Just keep mentioning the same ones. Who do more commercial stuff, so more like household products, consumer goods, more general commercial stuff. It could be annual reports, could be anything. But there's definitely a fashion beauty bunch which is different. All us lot talk to each other. We're friends. We have a thing called PAL, which is Photo Agents London, and we meet up 3 or 4 times a year, and we talk about things like terms and conditions and maybe, like, I don't know, bad paying clients sometimes, but we talk about just things that affect us all, so it's nice. So we all know each other, because when I've said that to people before, people have been like, oh, I thought you'd be really competitive and you hate each other or something, but we all know each other and talk to each other. So if one of our photographers sneaks around with another agent, then they get caught. Yep, just for the camera there. Okay. So most agents, so this is a bit of an honest fact as well, I guess. Just because you've got an agent doesn't mean you're always busy. Most agents do represent a few photographers, maybe 1 or 2, that they're not really getting that much commercial work. But they also represent 1 or 2 that are doing fantastically well. So it's just so up and down, really, in the commercial industry. That's the general industry, I would say. As an agent, and I did count this, I thought, let's do some proper facts. Let's not just waffle on, let's just really look at my emails. Not on this computer, obviously. And I get like 5 emails a day on average, I worked out, from photographers saying, I'm looking for an agent. So like 5 a day. So 25 a week, 100 a month, nearly 1,000 a year, yeah. And I worked out, because that's the thing with agents, it's not about quantity. What the ideal thing is to represent a smallish group, 10, 15 photographers is the average, I would say. Depends how many staff you've got, how established you are. For as long as you can, it should be a long-standing relationship. So Nick David I've represented pretty much from the beginning, 17 years. And I tried to count like how many photographers I've represented since the company's been going for 17 years. And I couldn't quite work it out, but I think I can only remember like 15, maybe 20 max that I now don't represent, that I used to represent. So just in terms of stats, we probably represent, 30, 40 in a lifetime of being an agent. And you get approached by 1,000 photographers a year. So I just thought I'd put a stat out there. So yeah, there's the stats. Right, when is the right time to get an agent? Oh, sorry. We do. Well, I do certainly, absolutely. Contracts is an important thing to me, not just to like tie people in or vice versa. It's a great thing to just set out expectations. So it's like what the agent does, what areas we represent you in, worldwide or just UK, who does the invoicing, the percentage of the commission. Termination, literally we just say give each other 1 month's notice if you want to stop, really. So it's in a way it's not, it kind of not means nothing, it means a lot of contract. But if a photographer just goes sorry for whatever reason, or if we go sorry, just don't want to represent you anymore, we just give each other a month's notice in writing.
That's quite standard, or is that?
Yeah, it is definitely standard, yeah. One of the things that PAL, the Agents Forum, did do, we get together on things like that and see that we've got all the relevant stuff in the contract. Because there's a thing in the contract that says when you terminate the arrangement, any inquiries that have started through the old agent carry on through the old agent, and then they still take a smaller percentage of work for the next 3 months. And so there's one agent that represented someone for like 20 years, like he really did, and he did kind of put that photographer out there and made, helped him a lot with his career. So he just thought, just like after a month I don't really get anything, so he kind of wanted to change that, but it's difficult. But yeah, that's a good question. We do have a contract like that, yeah.
So the question is,
yeah.
When I was contacted a clip from the process.
That's another agent, yeah.
They're really super.
Yeah.
And I watched them, and didn't recognize my name.
Yeah.
And she said like, oh listen, we're really not looking for photographers at the moment. Can you contact us again in half a year's time?
Yeah.
Like a standard reply. And I said, listen, I really feel you're going to like my style. So when you do it like this, I'm going to send you, give me your email address. I'm going to send you a link to my webpage. Have a look around. If you like it, just come back to me. If you don't even need to reply. I'm not going to bother you for the next half year, basically. Which I thought was quite a good deal, basically. Yeah? And then they took me on in the end. And then,
right.
when we had the first lunch, and
Yeah.
I said, oh, it was really great that you were so consistent because we were actually looking for photographers at that moment. But as you just said, we have like 5 or 10 photographers contacting
Exactly.
every day. So if you could spend like 5 minutes or 10 minutes sort of chatting to them,
Yes.
one of them over the phone. One worker could be busy just talking to potential photographers.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I found this really quite interesting that the standard reaction seems to be like, sorry, we're actually not looking for any photographers.
Yeah.
Even if they were actually actively looking for photographers. Could you maybe talk a little bit more about the process of how to approach you? For example, maybe phone calls versus emails, or
Yeah.
is there something that they should say, something that they shouldn't say?
There is. I have that coming up, Holger. So in a moment I do. In my third section I have to have some examples of definitely what not to do and what to do. Yeah. So just like when the time is right to get an agent, as I've already touched on, the time isn't right just because you're quiet or because you want some work. It is when you've started to get some work, or like your case, Tom. That sounds interesting. Yeah. Let me just give you a couple of examples of photographers that I have taken on and why the time was right with them. So Paul Tate, he approached me, sent emails, and he sent a really lovely promo that I'll show you in a moment. And this is his work. So this is just like one of his, a set of his images, a personal project of rowers. So this was on the Thames. It was -8 degrees, and it was just a lovely feel to the images, and he's just got a nice body of work. This was a commission that we got him when we took him on for Oxford Brookes University. So it's for the prospectus, and they wanted sports themed things, but he was actually meant to go to the gym, but he saw this hockey match in full flow. So I don't think they used the pictures of the couple snogging, but he was like, this is typical photographer, like Paul Tate thing, like, oh, let me just take a few pictures of this, it's like fabulous. So he approached us, and he used to work at Wolf Olin's as an in-house photographer, and he knew the whole design industry, as in knew of the industry. He'd done his research, but he wanted to get his foot in the door with the more the advertising agency world. But he knew the shoot process. He kind of just knew the process. Agents want to work with photographers, not only that maybe have a few clients under their belt, but it makes it so much easier. They know, that they may do a quote for a job and they may not get the job because 5 other photographers are pitching for it, or they just know the deal. It's just easier. Weirdly, the least experienced ones think they should have 20 grand a day if it's an advertising job, and it's no, it's all different. It's do I need to explain kind of thing. But Paul kind of knew the deal, but just wanted an in with ad agencies, and I just loved his work. It fitted in with the agency, and we were looking for someone right then kind of thing. So, and he was a little bit persistent, but not too much. That really worked out. Alice Whitby, she was our most recent photographer we took on. She kept getting we kept losing jobs because she kept getting them. So I was oh, she hasn't got an agent. So we approached her. That's kind of quite rare, but we just kind of approached her, and it was nice to get a lady photographer on board because the kind of things a bit kind of mismatched still. And I just again loved her work, and she's just a really, really nice lady. And so she's had these great commissions from British Council, NHS, that's through a healthcare ad agency, and this is on the right. It's a website for mothers called the Grace Stories. So she did a coffee table book of them. So that was an example of when an agent takes a photographer on. Ian Crockart, he was one of the first photographers I took on when I set the agency up, but and I still represent him. He was a client, so he was a a creative director at a design agency, and he wanted me to represent him. It's like, I'm going to be a photographer, can you represent me? It was like, it's a bit too much of a gamble, do a few jobs first, Ian. I didn't want to be too rude because he's like a client kind of thing. And then, so he was one of the reasons why I set up the pop-up agent service, because it's like, we'll deal with his shoot inquiries, but we won't actually represent him. But then he just carried on getting jobs. So the situation, the circumstances all kind of came together, and that's why we took him on. And he does like corporate photography, he does lifestyle photography. It wouldn't have been too, I was confident that we could kind of make some money out of him basically, and would enjoy working with him at the end of the day, if I'm frank. And this is a shoot he did for Saatchi & Saatchi, a corporate, with a corporate feel, but they wanted his very graphic look, so he's just had a nice kind of style to that. So it was a successful shoot. We represent him now and he's just brilliant. Now I'll answer your questions then, Holger. Right, so how not to get an agent. So again, these are real things that have happened in the last month. Okay, so one of the agents, which was quite funny actually that she did this, basically a photographer sent an email out of the blue. We get 5 emails a day, blah, 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 blah. So he sent an email to all of the agents and CC'd all of them, didn't even BCC them, just all of them, like CC is like, okay. So she pressed reply all and basically said, it's not making me feel very special. And I thought, good on you, girl. Fair enough. So even if like he BCC'd us, that would have been like a bit boring, it's kind of nothing, you're not giving me anything to kind of sort of tell me that you really want us to represent you. Had like a WeTransfer file sent in the week, literally thought it was spam. It was like, it would have taken hours and hours to download, and it was just literally this curt, can you give me some feedback? I'm actually looking for an agent, with like from a Gmail or Outlook, whatever email. It's like well, no, because it's going to slow it all down. And literally, I think I thought it might be spam. Not spam, a virus like that. But yeah, a virus, yeah.
How big was it?
Well, it was just massive. It was just like, no, go there. And it had like just weird, like she had no, I can't give away the email address, but it just looked dodgy, yeah. But it wasn't. I looked, she had a website address and she was a photographer. She wasn't very good. And she wouldn't have got an agent, but because she's nowhere near ready. She might be good, but no. One agent in the States literally put an ad. There's a thing called a photo editor. Have you heard of that? It's a good, she put a little blog piece on that going, looking for photographers, send me your last 3 years, how much you've earned from advertising, what have been your fees, how much have you made. I think that's a bit much and it's quite American, but I can kind of see what she's doing, but because she wanted to know, she wanted someone to go, well, I earned 200 grand a year, so she'd go, all right, then I'll represent you. I know it's really harsh and cruel, but she did do that. I know everyone looks really shocked and awful and we're very British, but she did kind of do that, yeah. Which is kind of, that's what agents, ish. There's different levels, yeah. It's not such a harsh world, yeah, as I'm putting out there. I've had one, Dear Carolyn, who's obviously Carolyn Trailer, rather than Dear Lisa. That didn't go down very well. There's been, just, I looked at all the emails and everything was like, why didn't I reply to them? Why didn't I look? And often I do look, and they just don't feel like they'd be the right fit for the agency. They haven't got any clients already. They're just completely wrong for the agency. And they're kind of a little bit presumptuous, like, can you just give me some feedback? Can I take you for a coffee and have a chat? It's like I'd be high on caffeine if I said yes to people that wanted to take me for a coffee and have a chat. But that's why I said the statistics at the beginning about the 5 emails a day. It's tricky. It's that's why I'm giving these examples of how we took on these photographers, and I've got some more here that might explain it a bit more. So Paul Tate sent us this wonderful promotional brochure. It was quite thick. I didn't really like the cover, to be honest, and I was a bit confused about what kind of photography it was, but it was packed full of lovely moments. I could see him really fitting in, he just offered something different. It's not easy for an agent to find a really great photographer that they love the work of. You've got to individually as an agent love the work of as well. So there's some agents that love really stylized still life, and there's some that go a bit more fine art photography. So there is a bit of a taste that we've all got that you can kind of see from the work, with exceptions kind of to the rule. Some agents just literally like to tick the boxes, like car photographer, food and drink photographer, fashion photographer, still life photographer. They just like lifestyle photographer. So you do need to do your research, and that is the number one thing if you want to get an agent, is to do your research and really be convincing that you want this agent to represent you. And Paul Tate really was convincing. Maybe he just said it to all the agents, but when he came in, he was really, I really only want LPA to represent me, really. I'm doing okay on my own, but I do think I'm going to be a fit for your agency. I mean, he's just so lovely, such a lovely guy, and just done so much work since he's been with us, which is great. Wilma, so I don't just represent, you know, those kind of documentary type of photographers. Wilma do drinks and still life, and I've known them for years. I used to, Wilma are Will and Martin, they're two guys called Wilma, and I used to hire them as assistants to photographers I used to represent, like years and years ago. Ian Crockart is one of them, actually. But I found my clients were going, I know you've got food and drink photographers, my hair's falling out, food and drink photographers, Lisa, but have you got anyone that just does drinks, like more still life drinks? So I was like, oh, well, yeah, Tim Atkins does it and Stan Stow does it. But I thought, no, it needs to be more of a still life drinks photographer. And then I was like, well, I do know this photographer, these photographers, and so they got a job, and then we got them another job, because we don't really represent anyone that does more luxury products and still life so much. Katrina, who we represent, does to a certain degree. So it's like, oh, do you know what? Let's just represent you. You're really nice guys, known you for years. Didn't represent them before, I think, because I did know them really well, and I didn't want it to go wrong, kind of thing. But it's like, why not? We're all sort of, you know, better the devil you know, kind of thing, and we got them work. So a lot of the time you are kind of on the radar anyway. Imogen Forte was one of Future's now taken on, but to be honest, she can't enter an award without winning it, it seems these days. So she's won like the Bridgman Art Award and the Magnum Scholarship. So she went to Milan for a month and did this project called 114 Miles and walked around Milan and took all these. Oh no, sorry, that's Cuba. Okay, this is Cuba. This is, yeah, so she wanted to do Cuba. I know a lot of photographers do Cuba, but she didn't want to do just the Cadillacs and the crumbling buildings. She just wanted to like get inside the skin of the place and shoot the people and stuff. And it won several awards, and this is 114 miles around Milan. So the point of Imogen is, even though Futures is an unusual thing, I think I would have just noticed her winning awards and probably would have gone, oh, and if then she'd approached me, I'd be like, yeah, because I love her work, like her documentary photography is just beautiful, love it. So you kind of need a bit of a link in there, you need to have registered a bit with the agent, I think, to kind of be signed by them. And then obviously there's obvious ways you don't approach them by email, but email's fine. I mean, what else do you do? Send a promo, send an email. But I think you need that kind of background stuff. So this is the last slide. This is my attempt at finding an image that goes, and then you can just ride off into the sunset and have a wonderful go. That's all I could find. But yeah, so to sum up, the right time is when you kind of need an agent and you respect what they do and you have realistic expectations of how they can help you, and it's the right fit for all the reasons I talked about earlier, you do need to just really do your research. Even if you just get some jobs, just get one job even from an ad agency. I would definitely say don't approach an agent if you have no advertising work or design work. Or if you haven't been commissioned for editorial as well, actually, because that's a good point. You said that in the beginning, Tom. If they can see relate your work that people, if you've gone through the commission process, that's okay too. That's good. You're on a certain level, kind of thing. If you can genuinely see the work that they produce and the clients that they work for, that your work would fit, then yeah, that's the right time as well. So the time has to be right. And I'm really only going on about this because I just do get so many photographers that just don't get that at all, you know. And then, you know, it's also, wow, we're not miracle workers, and we're not like amazing. We're not all amazing. I'm amazing. No, but it's not about just you getting an agent. It's about an agent getting you. So it should be 50-50. You need to really get on with the agent. You need to like the agent. You need to respect what the agent does. I would say definitely you need to be signed to an agent that has a contract, that has a certain level of professionalism. Some agents don't have that, and you need to have the same vision. So I've represented photographers that used to be with other agents, and that other agent hasn't wanted that photographer to go out with their books or approach the same people or send emailers out to ad agencies. Like, why wouldn't you want me to do that? I absolutely, you know, bring it on. It's like, let's all do it. Let's get, it's such a competitive world. You know, when you meet an agent, who's going to take the books out? And is it going to be just someone that works for them? Is it going to be them? That's fine if it's someone that works for them, if you get on with them. What's the plan? Have they got a marketing plan? You know, it's not like, hey, I've got an agent. It's about, are you happy with them? Are you 100% confident that you're going to really get on and you've got the same vision and everything? And then if that all fits, then that's a wonderful recipe for success. And that's the end of the talk. So we're going to do some questions. So should we do the prize or the questions first? Questions for a bit, and then the prize right at the end, I think. Because thanks for entering the little photo competition that I put out there. So I've got signed books in a little tote bag. If you've already got the book, then just get a tote bag, basically. But should we do the questions first?
Yeah,
While we're on a bit of a roll. Okay, yes. Hi. Could you hear me, everyone, as well? Because I'm mumbling a bit. Is it all right? Okay. That's cool, yeah.
I'm interested in your futures,
Mm.
like Gavin,
Yes.
and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And how that works and what the process is. And stuff
Yeah.
like that, and whether you choose the people or whether they come to you.
Yeah, no, so that's like quite, it's a competition with quite a formal structure now. So we have we select judges from the industry, so like ad agency, art directors, design agency, creative directors, art buyers, and I'm one of the judges as well. And we put a call for entries out, just like a competition. We usually get about 150 entries, and we have round one is because they enter a portfolio of 20 images, all of the photographers.
And is that hard copies or is that?
No, just digitally, just like JPEGs or whatever, yeah. And then we shortlist it, we do yes, no, maybe, and then we have a live judging session. So one of the sponsors, we have sponsors of the competition that give prizes, and then we have a brilliant entertaining evening of all the judges kind of choosing, and we just literally select 5 of those photographers. So I get a bit of a say, but I mostly try and leave it to the judges, and then we represent them just for a 2-year period only, just 2 years, which I specifically did because 1 year's not enough, but I wanted a timeline on it because then it's because it can't, and they win lots of other prizes as well.
Those photographers, do they tend to have a lot of work under their belt? Or is it, I know that Gavin was on the photo.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So are they good, but they haven't quite got enough?
I would say,
Is that the sort of level that they're at?
yeah, I would say they're chosen because they have a really strong, wow, you can tell it's Gavin's work, wow, you can tell it's Andrea's work.
Yeah.
I think that's the main reason that people choose them. And we can get a little bit more risky with it because sometimes if it's really arty, the more creative work is sometimes, the more difficult it is to get commissions from brands and businesses. But you do need a distinctive style. But sometimes we push the boat out a bit and go, yeah, why not? Let's just have something a little bit more out there. Yeah. So it's a real gamble. So we've met them all because they could be like, oh my God, you're a nightmare and we've got to be your agent for 2 years. But they're all just amazing. All 5 of the futures we've got this year, it's like, literally like, oh my God, I'm so inspired by you, the stories, and they're so enthusiastic, but they're just great. Their work's great. And they're usually, people think they're just from uni, straight out of uni, which they rarely are. They've usually been assisting, they're usually like late 20s, they've usually been getting out there, learning about the industry for 4, 5, 6, sometimes more. We always try and attract just people who are just much older that want to change their jobs, but it does tend to be like the Falmouth lot or the Brighton University or LCC or something, with the exception to the rule, there are some, we had someone who used to be a fashion buyer and but we try to attract all sorts of people, but yeah, so that's how they get in really, but they are chosen by the judges. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Could you tell me if looking at a portfolio, you would rather see series or single images?
It depends what type of photographer you are. Definitely what type of photographer are you?
That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would say generally series, even if I was going to say sometimes if you're a still life photographer, you can get away with individual images. I would say a series, at least of like 4, because mostly clients commission images, they don't just commission one image. If it's an ad campaign, it's 3 to 5 images. If it's a branding agency, a creative agency, design agency, it's often a whole bank of images. And often if you just see one image, you kind of, yeah, that's great, and then on to the next one, and on to the next one. And you can't quite, doesn't sink in so much in your head as a project. Although Gavin Lee, who did the wrestler at the beginning, I don't remember his work, he's different in a way because he shoots individual portraits of all different types of people, so they are all individual. So yeah, so that would be an exception to the rule. But generally, I think you need to give more of something that you can remember people by. Show more images from the series. Yeah, at least in 4s, sometimes in 8s. Yeah.
With your photographers you represent who do more moving image stuff,
Yeah.
are they working like as a shooting stuff on their own, or are they working big crews, or is it
Again, it really varies. Like Nick literally does it in collaboration with a guy called Jack Flynn, who's really great. It does vary. Often they will kind of have like a cameraman, but they're doing the directing, so they're shooting the stills, and it's almost like it's more of a technical thing, but they are being the creative person to direct it, so more of a movie director than a cameraman. Yeah, exactly, DOP, exactly. Yeah, because obviously the main kind of goal in that is for the moving image to be exactly like the stills and for the whole feel of the photographer to come through. Yeah, so sometimes they do it themselves and sometimes they just direct someone else, but it's rare you just get someone else just doing their own thing kind of thing. It's like a collaboration thing like that. Yeah.
Do you know roughly how much the market goes on agent versus non-representative?
So that again?
Commercial photography, how much needs to buy non-agency?
So I can't hear what you're saying. Say it again.
Percentage of roughly of photography that goes through an agent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Say it's 20% of the market.
Right, I know what you mean, yeah. I think it's really different. I think the design industry and the ad industry is different. I think design agencies actually like working with photographers without agents sometimes, which I've been trying to sort of quash that idea for like years because we get lots of great work from them. I asked this specific question because I used to do a column called Ask an Agent, and then I've just sort of stopped it for a while, but one of the questions was, do I need to have an agent to get in with art buyers and ad agencies? Surely I'm not going to get any work if I haven't got an agent, have I? So I asked 10 art buyers, literally, and they were like, no, don't be so silly, no problem, we want to use the photographer because of the photographer. That's what they said. Like, I don't know, well, I 100% believe them, because I do think we can put photographers on their radar more, and I do think they know they're going to just send us an email and we'll get an estimate back really fast, and they'll know, they know that we can turn a shoot around. So I think it does help, but no, when I've asked clients, they've said, no, it's, you know, we're the agents, we're like the background people, really. It's all about you guys, the photographers, your eye and the way you... So a lot of the time people do want to use the photographer. Yeah, I don't want to, you know, really not want to big agents up to that degree at all. But it's like when you buy anything, if you feel confident when you get it, it's all going to be happy days. You feel more confident, I suppose, if the photographer's got an agent. But no, I think the top 10 ad agencies probably commission. Yeah, I really think it's 50-50, and like the top 10 ad agencies. Yeah. So, yeah, just go for it. You don't have to have an agent to do well and shoot good work. Don't need me. Any more questions? Oh, it's hot, isn't it? Should we open the door? It's a bit hot. It's like,
His face doesn't have ventilation.
It's my face like really red.
Well done, everyone. Beautiful.
And we can have more questions. Oh yeah. No, there's more questions they want, I think. For a few minutes, 5 minutes, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we invoice. Again, there is the exception to the rule, and I know there's an agent that just literally takes 25%, and the photographer deals with it all and invoices the client, and they invoice the photographer for 25%. I think that's rare, but there is an agent that does that.
Would you only pay the photographer when you get paid?
Yeah, oh gotcha, yeah. Yeah, you had a question, didn't you?
I wanted to ask, how much is important for a photographer to show in his portfolio commercial works before getting
Personal.
Yeah, personal. No, not personal. I mean, if he's done some commercial work.
What, to an agent or a client?
To an agent. I mean, if this photographer wants an agent.
Yeah.
Is it important to show?
I think you do need to prove that you've been commissioned at least once on a good shoot, I would say. Yeah, yeah. Ideally, it's like, I've got loads of work and I need an agent to help me, but definitely lots of agents would take photographers on. They just have the right kind of style for their market, and they've done, I think they should have done one job really at least. I do think so, yeah. Because it's not just the images, it's the whole process kind of thing. Just, it's the whole thing, yeah.
So ideally you would pitch your work to an ad agency and then ideally use an agent, a pop-up agent to help you with that? Or?
Yeah, what, as an individual photographer that we don't represent? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So then it's like you go, I want to give you this like £1 million shoot. It's like, great, let me call LPA, my pop-up agent, to help me kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. And then you might not get the job, or if you get the job, we can deal with the job. But we don't, for that, I mean, it's just nitty-gritty stuff. We don't take 25%, we just take 15% of that because we haven't put the marketing effort in or anything. But it's, yeah, we just do that really.
Any more questions, anyone?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. I like questions. Sorry, I waffled on too much at the beginning, I
How
think.
important do you think is the social media or just the Instagram for pitching or finding jobs or agents?
I don't think it's like moving image. It's like people get a bit paranoid, don't they? It's like, I'm not doing it, but it doesn't matter. But for an agent, when you take people on, it's always an attractive thing to me if I see people being proactive and wanting to spread the word and network, and it's just like, it's an example that that's what they're going to be like as a general person, so that's a good sign. Yeah, more and more clients have literally said I saw it on Instagram, so that is happening more. There's lots of successful photographers that like, I'm not getting anywhere near social media, which is very brave, and they're still successful. But I think, why not? It's a great way to network and create, show your work. I think you should just naturally want to spread the word about your work, and so I think social media is a great way to do that, and clients could find out about you that way, yeah.
So do you have a social media team that actively promotes the photographers?
No, we just do it ourselves. We just do like this, like in my office, there's like 3 full-time people. 2 deal with estimates and shoots, and 1 deals with more of like the marketing and organising to take the books out and social media. But we all do that as well. We have like a weekly marketing meeting, and one of the things I always say is, don't just leave it to Cleo, let's all do Instagram and Twitter and everything. So we all try to do it, and you know, on different subjects. So I enjoy what's going on in the press, and I'll, you know, do social media about tonight, etc. And so no, we don't have one dedicated person. I think as a small company that wouldn't be.
And it's just brand building, you're not looking for bookings per se.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? If you build your brand, you're looking for bookings. It's the same. It works out as the same thing. Yeah. It could be argued. Yeah.
Can I just ask, with the pop-up agent, in terms of, how does that look in terms of fees? So, say I came to you and I'd won a job, production was too much for me to deal with on my own,
Yeah.
and I wanted, like, model looking at, and stylists, whole production
Yeah.
together through to call sheet. Would you then look at that and give an estimate in terms of how much time it takes?
Yeah, we could either do, some photographers want to carry on dealing with the client, so then we'll just like do, like charge as a consultancy kind of like rate to advise. But a lot of photographers are like, can you deal with it? You know what questions to ask, you can ask what the budget is, and I've got no idea what my fee is. So we'll deal with the whole thing, and as I say, we take 15% if you get the job of the fees, and then just charge the production time. So if it's like obviously a 2-week job and it takes 5 days to produce it, and we'll organise the whole crew, then we'll charge production fees as well. So you as a photographer will end up with 85% of the fees that we negotiate for you.
And will that include like, so everything that the photographer makes from the shoot as opposed to just...
Yeah. So you'll make markup on the digital and equipment and everything. If we can make a little bit of a buffer on that, that's just an industry thing, absolutely. So you'd invoice us your actual expenses, and then we'll put a handling fee on top of that to the client, and then you get that, or 50% of that. Yeah, we can say the actual details. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for that, then.
That's all right. Was that interesting? Was that like you learn stuff? It's all right. Oh shit! Wait a minute, sorry. Got like Tourette's. Right, so thank you all for entering, and the winner is, it was a tough one, and there was a really last minute one, but I'm an agent and it was over the deadline, but I think I'd already had my heart set on this one anyway. So Camilla Camp, are you Camilla Camp? Oh, stuck in the bottom of my bag. Tote bag, 2 Southwoods, well done. The images are lovely. There's your images there. Yeah, and I did have a little look at your website. It's wonderful. And I chose you because it's weird, actually. Maybe this is a thing, a little tip for entering competitions. For some reason, it's always the very first image or the very last image. So Camilla was the first image. Yeah, neither good. But also, obviously, I just personally love this kind of style. I love the light on it was wonderful, and the atmosphere, and it was just very sensitive. And soft and touching, and I just personally love the work, but I could also see it, because that's my head, that's how I look at images as well. It could have been, commissioned for, I don't know, Sky TV or something like that, so that's why I chose it, so well done.